Yeah, it's been quite a rush for the drivers to be on track and to go this fast and to run an average lap time over 200 miles an hour. You certainly feel the speed and the comforts there. This asphalt and tire combo seems to be pretty decent. My first set of tires I was on, it took a while for them to come in, and then I got familiar with the track. I think that as the track started to rubber up, as we put tires on later, the car was still pretty comfortable. So, we wouldn't be able to run this fast if we didn't have comfort in the car and there wasn't a lot of grip. Still, think that we're going to have our traditional repave type of racing. It's just kind of how it is when you're going this fast. There's really the racing lane gets narrower and narrower the faster you go, and with these record speeds, it's going to be pretty narrow until the track ages some. And I know some guys were searching around a little. I'm hopeful we can find a third or fourth lane out there to run in, to have some options. But so far I think everything's gone well, and it's nice to get on track and kind of get familiar with things today before we get into the race weekend tomorrow.
Thank you, Jimmy. We'll take some questions now. If you have a question for Jimmy Johnson, we'll bring you the wireless mic. I'm sure we do. Bob Pockris has the first one.
Bob Pockris, Sporting News. Last week you were going 211 into turn one, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, that's fast!" And now you're 218. Sounds like here going into the turn. How much different is that here compared to Pocono? And do you have any concerns about the speeds?
I don't have any concerns about the speeds. Granted, I haven't seen anyone hit the wall yet. See how the car reacts with safer Barry at this pace, but at least the balance we have under our race car right now, it's been very comfortable to drive. I think we're in a bit of a comfort zone as a group right now because of last week's experience, and our eyes are kind of calibrated for the speed. And I knew that I was going fast more due to the fact of my on power points and how far I was driving into the corner on the throttle than I really was from my eyes telling me. So I think we're used to the speed, and an extra 5, 6, 7 miles an hour. It's hard to feel that. Once you get over that 210 mark, it's tough to really feel the sensation. So we'll see how it unfolds. And we had a good clean Pocono race, and I think a lot of that had to do with how the tire and the asphalt worked out. Although the start of the race was a bit crazy, but I think a lot of that had to do with the ARCA rubber that was down, and we'll have to go through that again this weekend through qualifying balance and then also the start of the race. Well, I guess we have Nationwide here or something. Will they pick it up?
Nationwide will be here tomorrow afternoon, or excuse me, Saturday afternoon.
Whoever's on track after ARCA, from what we saw in Pocono, it's going to be a handful first 10 laps. So I hope it's not us, but if it is, you just got to be prepared for it.
Other questions? Raise your hand. Nate Ryan. I'm sure David Newton will have a question, and Reed Spencer and Lee Spencer. I can
Nate
tell.
Ryan, USA Day. Jimmy, Greg was saying that every lap felt like a qualifying lap and it was like a hold your breath experience. It sounds like that wasn't really the case for you, that you were a lot more comfortable and out there and weren't holding your breath like it was qualifying.
No, it is, and I want to paint the wrong picture. The thing that's nice is that you might remember it, Charlotte, even Phoenix, Vegas a few years back. In order to run a fast lap, you had to drive through a very uncomfortable feeling race car. The comfort is in the car, but the challenge is still there on the driver. I mean, every lap does feel like a qualifying lap. But right now, because the comfort's there, you complete the lap and you kind of giggle. You're like, I got away with that? That's pretty awesome. Where at other tracks that I mentioned a second ago, you complete a lap and you're like, I don't want to run another. I mean, that's all I got. I'm ready to come to pit road. And the comfort is there where you want to keep running. So that's the difference.
So it's like you have to trick your brain into realizing you can hold the accelerator down that long and think that it's okay somehow, I guess.
Brain or that little muscle that you sit, down this way. One of those two.
David?
David Newton, ESPN.com. I have a couple of questions. First, do you think it's good for the sport, though, to have these high speeds and a little risk out there that fans seem to want to feel from the sport some?
I don't think it hurts any. I just want everyone to be ready that just because we're going faster doesn't mean that the race on Sunday is going to be more competitive. The faster we go, the more aero, the more important aero becomes. At the same time, the faster you go, the more narrow the racetrack gets. And right now we have a narrow groove because of a repave. For the best side-by-side racing, old Darlington, Atlanta, all those old porous, used-up racetracks or asphalts, surfaces is where that comes from. So we won't have that here clearly, but sure, it's cool to see the headlines read, record speeds, and it doesn't hurt anything for Friday and all the pre-race media. But I don't know if it's going to be what all the fans want to see on Sunday. But it is a necessary evil. I understand we got to repave racetracks, and we all have to be patient for the year or two. Some tracks seems to be 4 or 5 years later before we get back to the way it was.
I want to also ask you, there's going to be attention on Dale Jr. this week because tomorrow is the 4th-year anniversary of his last win. Can you imagine going 4 years without a win? I think your longest is, 21 or something like that?
You guys bust my stones after 16 races or something, so I can only imagine 4 years. Yeah, I mean, it's been tough on him. I mean, I think that we all pay very close attention to what's going on with the 88 and the speed in the car and how competitive he is. And this year and including last year, I think we all know that a win and then multiple wins are right around the corner. He continues to carry the flag and the points for Hendrick Motorsports, leading a ton of laps and doing all the things he needs to. Those guys are real close to being on.
Followed up too, Greg Biffle was saying there's maybe more pressure because he's so close to winning than there was when he was running 18th, 19th, 20 in that area. Is that any truth to that, you think? You feel that? Yeah,
it ramps up. I mean, I don't know if it's any more. Well, I guess fans get excited. Everyone gets excited that they can see it coming and trying to guess when it happens. Just through my own experiences, when you're in that position to win a race, and it's been a while, you do get a bit more animated in the car. And I can say from winning in Darlington, just going to the All-Star race, or even to Dover after that, leading the race, being in control of the race at the end, in the closing laps, I was much more comfortable in Dover than I was at Darlington. So there is something there to that.
Let's go to Claire and then Reed.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. At what point do you feel fear? At what point do you feel, I don't want to say the word scared, but I mean the fear of the speeds, or, are you so used to it that you don't feel that? At what point, where, when?
No, we feel it. I mean, in this generation of driver racing, safety measures have taken off a huge portion of that, where we come to a racetrack knowing that our cars are designed for this and the walls are safe and we have the proper safety gear inside. But when you're in the car, there's moments, your senses tell you where your car is and if you can push harder or not. And if you're lucky enough to feel the uncomfortable balance before it takes off, you can scare yourself a few times prior to crashing. And if you don't feel it or it happens too quick, usually when you're sideways is when the fear hits you. And the distance from when you lose control to when you hit the wall, that is the worst part, because you just don't know how bad the hit's going to be. And the longer the distance, the worse that ride is. And I've talked about it before with my Watkins Glen crash. That was the longest distance of knowing I was in deep that I've ever had in a car. And it seemed like it took minutes for that to go by. And that's the worst part.
Is there a speed at which you feel that, a particular speed that you feel it at, or not so much? Not really. I mean, Mark Martin told me a story at Martinsville that left pit road, throttle hung, went down and slammed the fence in turn 3. And you wouldn't think that you're going fast enough there to get hurt. And he said it was brutal, pounded the wall. So I don't think it really matters. When you're out of control, you're out of control and you tense up.
Let's go over here to Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Everybody talks about new pavement narrowing the racetrack for a while at least, but does the actual speed that you're running also have that same effect in that there's not really a momentum advantage to be gained around the top anymore to run that longer distance because you're going so fast in the middle of the track? Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a couple components to it, and that's one of them. Running the longer distance around the track and just adding distance to that is worth it.
And it becomes more of an opportunity when the bottom lane is slick or worn out. Then to take the extra distance, you carry more momentum, more speed. The engine's in its power band, and it kind of washes out, and your lap times are similar, if not a little faster up top. So when there's a ton of available grip, there's no reason to leave the bottom.
Lee?
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. You had some difficulties on pit road last week, if I recall. Are you satisfied with the explanation you were given, and is there anything different here this week that we might want to keep an eye on?
I don't think I've had a clear explanation following the race. Myself and 13 others certainly think there was something wrong with that last loop. But it's last week, it's behind us, and I don't know what to do going back. It'd be nice to have pit road speeds broadcast so we could try to understand, where and why and how we get in trouble. There's a few components to it. NASCAR measures pit road different than the way the cars are able to. We do it off of a mathematical equation that spits out RPM. They do it on an elapsed time between loops. So it's tough to really blend those two worlds together and know, what's what, unless there's maybe the GPS readout of the car going down pit road and what those speeds are, and we don't have that. So long story short, there are questions, and there will be debate until we're able to all see it, live at that moment. We finished up the day at Pocono by giving a ton of speed back through those segments, and it worked. We'll be cautious of it going back. We, in our meetings, talked about this racetrack being resurfaced, but I guess pit road was updated last fall, and so we have a race worth of experience on it, and we didn't have any issues here then. So we don't have any big concerns. We think everything will be fine.
Your crew chief's one of those guys, though. I mean, he scales pit road, just down to the last inch. So it just seems surprising that you, of all people, would get caught.
Yeah, I mean, the first mistake, or the first time I was hit on pit road, I thought maybe I could have left early. The second time through, and I'm not going to go through there at the same speed and then leave at the same point. I mean, I just got in trouble. I don't want to make matters worse, and I still got in trouble. So that's where we feel, that there was something, something not right, or something different than what was advertised on that sheet that is provided, and take it from there. What's tough is someone was telling me that if that distance, because they do elapsed time, if that distance is off 16 inches in the equation, would lead to the problem that we had. I mean, so it doesn't take much in their mathematical equation to get that, to have that wrong. So, and I don't know where the fault is. I mean, it could be on me. It could be something that was up with that loop and was different. But when you have that many people having trouble, we all kind of scratch our heads a little bit.
Final question. We'll go with Nate, and then we'll call on Clint.
Just following up on that, I guess there must be a way that they could just do like real-time mile per hour measurements, right? I mean, if they just had like the transponder black box stuff, like they choose to do it this way of having sectors and having time over distance, and that gives you guys a way to game the system a little bit, and get creative and figure out what pit stalls to choose and everything like that. Would it be better if it was like real time and you guys had to stay below a certain mile per hour limit the whole way, or do you kind of like having this ability to have it be a little bit vague and again be able to beat it at times, or does it matter?
Well, I'm not sure it's all that vague necessarily. I do like the segments because it leads towards good qualifying effort, and you are rewarded for having a good qualifying effort. The front row clearly has an advantage, but there's 10 segments last week on pit road, and there's probably 15 to 20 opportunities for guys to. And then there's others with gaps that it plays out better, and it rewards you for qualifying well. I think that if we could see the times, it would end a lot of concerns. Even in practice, we could go down pit road and calibrate. We would have found this out in practice or one of the 2 test days that we were there if those lapse times were broadcast for us to look at. If it's a channel that NASCAR provides, if it's at the truck, whatever it is, that would be helpful, and I think eliminate a lot of the problems once we get to race time.